We bring you the top-notch stories that you're looking forward to. Stay put within the next 1 hour as we deliver nothing than the best of stories making headlines throughout the country. Well, before we share all the details with you, let's look at some of the top stories that we have for you tonight. Coming up in the next 60 minutes, war of words in Parliament Appointment Committee as minority insists process must not continue until an interpretation is given to some constitutional provisions on the ceiling for the appointment of Supreme Court justices.
It's a serious matter. Imagine the Supreme Court judges reading the judgments that have been borrowed from somewhere else.
Until you put the motion to a vote, there will be no vetting. If you want to disrespect the rules of Parliament, and members of this committee, let's do it.
Well, also coming up tonight, renal units remain closed to outpatients, contrary to assurances by Kolebu Teaching Hospital authorities that it will be open to them today.
At the port, and then that's what I explained. The logistics team is already at the port, trying to make sure that the container is loaded, and then they'll be headed to Kolebu.
On your election hub tonight, NDC flag bearer stirs controversy as he accuses the governing MPP of not doing enough for the Volta region as he begins campaign tour in that area.
If you take the Volta region from electricity to water to education to health to roads, everything that you find here in Volta region was provided in the time of NDC.
And in business, Bank of Ghana absolves itself of 54.6 billion cedis out of the $60 billion losses in year 2020. Tonight we'll share all these details and many more. Don't you forget that Benghazi will be joining me with the latest happenings from our world of sports. So be my guest, stay with us as we share all these stories and many more with you.
From 2022, the biggest portion of the loss is not really coming from our operations. It's coming from as a result of the 50% haircut that the central bank took.
My name is Kweku. Thank you very much for choosing GHOne TV. It's a delight joining you with the latest happenings throughout the country. Let's take our very first story for the evening and hear the veteran of two justices for the Supreme Court, Professor Frimpong Opong and Banasco Esan, became chaotic when the minority on the Appointments Committee moved a motion for the suspension of the process in order to deal with what they say is the lacuna in the Constitution. Well, Member of Parliament for Boku Central, Mahama Yariga, raised issues with the provisions in the Constitution regarding how many judges can be appointed to the Supreme Court. Well, he urged the Appointments Committee to suspend the vetting process since it is not in the domain to determine the ceiling for the justices to the Supreme Court. Well, this suggestion was not acceptable to the majority, who insisted the process continued. Well, the confusion continued after a 30-minute recess, but after a vote on the motion saw the minority losing out, proceedings went on.
Don't pretend that you have the power to just bulldoze the way through. I don't think that the nominee want to entertain that. The nominee should be worried that at this committee, even the things she's seeing here don't appear to be wholesome. It's a serious matter. Imagine the Supreme Court judges reading the judgments that have been borrowed from somewhere else.
Until you put the motion to a vote, there will be no vetting. And if you want to disrespect the rules of parliament and members of this committee, let's do it. But we are not going to throw the rules of parliament away. There's a motion on the floor. No. And we are going to vote on that motion.
She has no authority to rule on it. She has no right.
Doesn't have a right.
Read the standing order.
To order.
Madam Chairman, Madam Chairman, please, let me, please. Madam Chairman, please, let me make a very fundamental. Madam Chairman, Chair, I'm making a very, Chair. Chair, may I suggest, as a member of the committee, I'm sure this time you will listen to me. May I suggest that, Madam, you accede to their call, and then we take a vote on the motion moved by the Honorable Ayariga, as was requested.
As the chair should overrule the preliminary objection with reasoned arguments and proceed with the vetting process, ensuring Parliament's constitutional duties are fulfilled without undue interference. In any event, the respected Boko Central MP did not initially move a motion. He raised an issue asking that it be captured in the report of the House for subsequent consideration. Thus, he cannot subsequently seek to transform his preliminary observation into a motion demanding a vote at the committee level. If members want to move a competent motion, there are proper and competent ways of doing that.
Honorable Patricia Appiaje. The motion. Honorable Frank Anadompre.
No, with emphasis.
Honorable Gifty Chum Ampofo.
No. Abstain.
No.
All right, so definitely after the war of words there, they had to subject the sitting to voting in there. We would want to stay on the subject a bit longer on this subject and speak to the legal practitioner on this matter. Alexander Kweku Aban has joined us at this moment. We would want to get more details. Now, thank you very much, Lawyer Aban, for your time. Now, there was confusion at the start of the vetting of two nominees to the Supreme Court over the capping of the Apex Court. Now, I want to find out, the Member of Parliament for Boko Central, that's Mahama Ayariga, wants an interpretation on some portions of the Constitution. Is his view a careful look at the articles? That's if you look at Article 296 or 298 of the 1992 Constitution. Suggests that it is Parliament that can either make laws to regulate the increase in the number of or the President can only do so through the laying of a constitutional instrument in Parliament. I'd want to find out, so is the lawmakers' arguments grounded in law?
Thank you very much, and greetings to your cherished viewers. If we are guided by history, over the years, this matter has never come up because the numbers of Supreme Court justices have always been hovering around 13, 12, maximum 15. I think it's even in recent times that we have had 15 members of the Supreme Court. It has never been the case where anybody has made.
The network no people see freeze my Zoom, sir.
by some kind of legislative instrument or executive instrument as being he anchored his argument on Article 296C of the Constitution. And with your permission, if I may read it, it says, where in this Constitution or in any other law, discretionary power is vested in any person or authority, that discretionary power shall be deemed to imply a duty to be fair and candid. And C, most importantly, where the person or authority is not a judge or other judicial officer, there shall be published by a constitutional instrument or statutory instrument regulations that are not inconsistent with the provisions of this Constitution or that other law to govern the exercise of the discretionary power. It is true that the president exercises some room or level of discretion in the appointment of justices to the Supreme Court. But it doesn't end with the president himself. It goes beyond the president. And there are different actors in this whole drama. I think that the provision in Article 296, which was the basis for Mr. Mahama Ayaga's call, that there should be an interpretation before that process is completed, is uncalled for. I think that it's a political matter that they are trying very hard to push across with some legal considerations by looking for some articles in the Constitution to back what is purely a political agenda. Why do I say it's a political agenda? It's a political agenda because it is reasonably foreseeable for anybody to think, or reasonably conceivable for anybody to think that indeed, while the president is appointing persons to the Supreme Court, he is most likely to do so having regard to the political leanings or persuasions of the persons so nominated. If that is the case, then they would be saying that, oh, why has President Nana Akufo-Addo had the opportunity to appoint so many justices? But that does not also mean that the president must be given carte blanche to appoint too many persons who may not necessarily be needed for the work of the Supreme Court. Having said that, does the appointment of these persons to add to the numbers of the already existing Supreme Court justices is it guided by the duty to be fair and all that? Is it needed? Unfortunately, there are people who are quick to say that the Supreme Court of the United States always has a membership of 9. And they have about 300 million people of population. Meanwhile, they have only 9 justices of the Supreme Court. But you come to Ghana, we have only a little above 33 million people, yet we have so many Supreme Court justices. And that there's the need for some kind of a capping or a ceiling. Because if you look at the Constitution, the number of Supreme Court justices is set at 9 plus the Chief Justice, meaning that that's the baseline. So you could still have some more persons appointed. But what would be the reason for the president to even appoint more justices of the Supreme Court? I believe that one of the most important reasons would be the increasing workload on the Supreme Court justices. The reason is this. Now, of course, our population has increased. There are many, many more courts in Ghana as of now than any other point in history. Obviously, when people appear before the courts and they are dissatisfied with the decisions given by the High Court or the Circuit Court, as the case may be, in the case of a civil matter, these cases that start from the High Court or the Circuit Court have the potential of finally arriving at the Supreme Court on appeal. So you can imagine the volume of work that is on the Supreme Court. Let me pause here to make a point that for those who always try to compare Ghana and the United States as far as the judicial system and the number of justices at the Supreme Court is concerned, I think that argument is seriously flawed in the sense that in the United States, we have different systems running. We have two separate systems running. We have the federal court system and we have the state court system. And in each of the states, each of the 51 states, we have the state district courts, we have the state court of appeals, and we have the state Supreme Court. In fact, in some other places, they even have county courts in addition, which may be equivalent to our circuit court and district courts here. So we have as many as 350 Supreme Court justices in the...
All right, so Lawyer Alban, we can say a big thank you. I lost you there in the process, but yes, you've done great comparing the Ghana's judicial system to that of the United States of America and further breaking it down, reason why they have 9 and most probably why we have our numbers increasing, and maybe because of the numbers that we are continually seeing increase, that's in terms of courts in the country. Well, the subject would not stay as that. We would come back to it at some point in time in our subsequent bulletins, and we'll share more details with you. It's now time for us to bring you Insight, and Insight is proudly brought to you by Pepsodent. With Pepsodent, every smile matters.
Insight is brought to you by Pepsodent.
Insights tonight. Flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, has chastised President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, describing him as the most uncaring and reckless president Ghana has ever had. Well, his comments are in response to President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's remarks regarding the people of Mepe and other communities who suffered serious devastation following the Akonsombo Dam spillage in year 2023. While speaking during the community engagement at Dedado as part of his campaign tour in Ho west of the Volta region, the former president contrasted Akufo-Addo with past presidents like Atta Mills, J.J. Rawlings, Kufuor, and himself, stating that they all showed concern for all Ghanaians. Well, he accused the current president of only caring about those who voted for him.
Everybody in this country. President Kufuor cared about everybody in this country. President Mills cared about every Ghanaian anywhere in this country. I cared about every Ghanaian anywhere in this country. Unfortunately for us, we have a current president those he cares about are those who voted for him. And so, when the Akosombo Dam spillage took place, it flooded people's properties. Mepe was underwater completely. Several villages were inundated and living in refugee camps. And then the president of Ghana goes there and says, I came here just because I'm president. But if it was based on the votes you voted for me, I won't be here. I mean, that's the most unfeeling, uncaring, reckless statement any president can make in history. But he has a history of doing that. The other time, Toby Amenyafiti of Aflao complained about his community school block. It was more than 90% complete. He said, come and finish it so that I can put my children in. And the president got angry and said, if you can finish it, find your own money and go and finish the school. A president does not speak like that.
Meanwhile, John Mahama, described as propaganda, claims by the MPP that the NDC has failed to deliver developmental projects in the Volta region, despite its overwhelming support for the NDC over the years. Well, according to the former president, such propaganda narrative by the MPP is a deliberate ploy to cause disaffection towards the NDC for political expediency. Well, John Mahama, who was addressing a Debar of chiefs and people at GHOne in the North Tong constituency as part of campaigns of the Volta region, dispelled the narrative indicating that the project started by the NDC government gets stalled when the MPP is in power.
In Rawlings' time, MPP used to get single digit in Volta region. In 2020, they have climbed and climbed and climbed. And in 2020, they got 14%. And so it means that they are making inroads into the Volta region. Now, what do? They use propaganda. And they come and tell you that you vote for NDC all the time. And yet NDC has done nothing for you. And so even though we can see what we have gotten under NDC, the propaganda is so strong that we actually believe that NDC has done nothing. And yet, if you take the Volta region, from electricity to water to education to health to roads, everything that you find here in Volta region was provided in the time of NDC. And any time the MPP comes into government, development of infrastructure in the Volta region comes to a halt until NDC comes back. All the roads we started, Japon, Adidome Road, we're about 80% complete. The fact that we had even reached 80%, that road would not have been continued. Look at the road from Japon Podoi to Abutia. We had a contractor working on it. That road should have been long finished by now. As soon as we left office, the road came to a standstill.
Well, definitely you would want to get some answers to what the NDC flag bearer is saying. Now let's speak to the Volta Regional Communications Director of the NPP, Perry Kwashi, for more on this particular allegations by the NDC flag bearer. Well, Perry, tell me, the former NDC flag bearer, says your party is engaging in propaganda. That is, the NDC has not developed the Volta region. He says all the developments in the Volta region is from the NDC. And if you heard him a while ago, I want to find out from you, why is it that when the MPP is in power, development in the Volta region is stifled?
My brother, good evening, and to yourself and the viewers of GHOne and the listeners as well. In fact, this argument from the former president, John Dramani Mahama, would have made a lot of sense if he had been able to speak specifically to projects that he himself, as former president, that got the people of Volta region overwhelmingly endorsing him in 2012 to become president of this country. Only for him to went on a tangent of engaging himself in propaganda to throw dust in the eye of people who came to listen to him on this Volta regional campaign tour as we speak. In fact, it is strive knowledge that politics, they say, is about development and improvement in the lives of the people. And so basically the NDC and its antecedents ruled this country the longest. And it would have been better for John Dramani Mahama, the flag bearer of the NDC, to be specific, to say that when I came to you, I spoke to your conscience, you agreed with me in 2012, you voted for me to be your president, and for that matter, I delivered A, B, C for you. It is only a matter of letting them think
not speaking for him, but he's mentioned a few things. You know, he's mentioned a few things, and I'd want you to also go on the tangent where he says, look, they have not done anything for you. When they come in power, development is stifled. Perry, can you outline for the people of the Volta region and the rest of Ghana who are watching you tonight, can you outline some of the things and say, I can confidently say this road to this part is done. You can go and do your fact check. And obviously, GHOne will hit out the roads and check really if these projects have been executed by the NPP.
Of course, that cannot be lost on me. I'll start with the recent one that happened where the NDC itself got some surrogates to indicate that it is President Mills that established GHOne, and for that matter, the president, as GHOne's board, decided to honor him with an honorary doctorate degree. Now, the second phase of GHOne itself, that is a $60 million project, was commissioned and executed by the sitting president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, of the MPP tradition. In fact, we have a golden seat in the Volta region, that is Kweku constituency, where Honorable Amewu come. You are well aware that since independence, they have never seen all roads tarred and asphalted ever in their lifetime. It is during the presidency of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia that the whole of Kweku Township has been asphalted. In fact, when you come to Whole Technical University and all the projects, in fact, His Excellency, the former President John Dramani Mahama, is supposed to be holding a symposium at Whole Technical University Auditorium. That auditorium was constructed by the New Patriotic Party government. And so these are people we are talking about. You see, mostly when you are talking about roads, all major roads in the Volta region were constructed during the MPP era. And these are issues that are clearly verifiable. Now, when you come to the health sector, the MPP during its administration, as we speak, has upgraded the Volta Regional Hospital to a teaching hospital. You and I are well aware that all the constituencies in this region, the 18 regions, the 18 constituencies in the region, have one ambulance each. The medical drones are working. In fact, it is within this administration. The Agenda 111 district hospitals that we are putting up in this region, which one is supposed to be costing $15.8 million, is happening in 8 of the constituencies in this region as we speak. You see, for me, I know that you have been to Ho before. If even at all, not made an attempt of coming to Ho, your reporters and the rest of them, FaceTime can give you an update in respect of the dual carriage road that is Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Bawumia constructed from Tokod all the way to Ho. In fact, all the whole township roads asphalted by His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And so
So Perry, when you hear statements like, okay, so the sitting president is uncaring, especially when it comes to the people of the Volta region, within 30 seconds, because of my time, how would you want to react to the former president and also the NDC flag bearer?
Of course, that can only be petty from a former president who is supposed to know better. That's when the people gives you mandate, you must better their lot. And when do we mean by saying you better the lot of the people? You come out with policy programs that will affect each and every citizen of this country. It should not be discriminatory in nature. You and I are well aware that the free SHS policy is scattered across the length and breadth of this country. It has no discrimination effect to it. The LEAP program is being expanded, affecting the nook and cranny of this country. The nursing and teaching training allowances that John Dramani Mahama cancelled. Is he not aware that we have teaching training colleges of education now as we speak, and then nursing training colleges in this region? The allowances have been restored. You are well aware that the allowances have been paid recently. The National School Feeding Program. No,
but I'm settling on hold a little bit, so I was going to find out from you. So the way Amewu's constituency, Honorable Amewu's constituency, has been tarred, can you say same for other areas in the Volta region? Because that is a little bit what we are looking at. The people who voted for the MPP, you are sympathetic towards those communities, and other areas are left out. Don't you think that's what the former president is driving at?
That is not it at all. You see, as for the MPP, you can attest to the fact that our motto even speaks it all, that development in freedom. Of course, we know that the nook and cranny of this country must see development. That is why we are implementing a decentralization program. Look at the dream exercise that we have brought recently, where machinery to construct roads in every corner in this country has been brought down to be distributed to all district municipal assemblies to start working in respect of roads that have some troublesome flying issues with them, to convey goods and services to the center of town. And so basically, you drive even all the way from Temeng about to Sogakope. That road has been constructed by the New Patriotic Party government. Okay. And so John Mahama, knowing very well that the love for him in the Volta region that they took for granted for so many years has dwindled, we are happy that the people continue to speak to us in our closet, that as and when we come back to them in 2024, they will give us the mandate again.
All right, Perry. Perry, thank you very much for your time tonight. I'm sure you've spent some time on the subject. We'll be doing our fact check, and for our viewers out there, we'll be sharing more details with you. But let me look at other stories tonight, and it has been 24 hours since the NDC announced its no fees stress policy aimed at relieving fresh entrants into tertiary institutions from paying academic fees. Well, in the aftermath, there have been varied reactions to the promise, with some questioning the basis of such a promise amidst the tight fiscal space the country has in these times. Well, GHOne News, Elikplin Awuku comes through with a wrap of what has happened since the announcement.
We realized that with the substitution of teacher trainee allowances with student loans, we could increase the capacity of the colleges of education to take in more students.
That was former President John Dramani Mahama in 2016, staunchly defending his decision on the non-payment of teacher trainee allowances. Just 3 months later, despite being in a comfortable lead, he lost the 2016 elections. Many critics point to this decision as a significant contributing factor. Fast forward to 2024, the NDC is now advocating free tuition for first-year students in public tertiary institutions, i.e. universities, and teacher and nursing training colleges. Stakeholders are questioning how this policy will be implemented. The NDC's Deputy National Youth Organizer, Osman Ayariga, assures that the party has a solid plan.
If you are able to cut expenditure in most of the places that there's wastage, we should be able to run this government. You do not need to be wasting so much money in all of these sectors. Talk about government machinery, talk about corruption, talk about other ministries that are overspending.
Unsurprisingly, the NPP does not agree. A member of the NPP's communication team, Ishaq Ibrahim, claims this is merely a gimmick.
Because they want to underfund them. They will promise. If for some reason they happen to come to government, they will promise, they will underfund first year, pretending it's free. Meanwhile, there is no quality.
But what do stakeholders think of this proposal? Divine Pay, head of programs at the education think tank, Africa Education Watch, suggests that the plan needs fine-tuning. Meanwhile, the president of the National Union of Graduate Students, NUGS, Daniel Opongchireme, demands a comprehensive plan.
I'll say it's thoughtful, but yet again, the caveat is that we don't need to implement this on a wholesale note.
Something of this sort is being carried out. I think the student front could have been consulted so that at a point we could also tender in our recommendations and also questions.
Ultimately, the decision lies with the electorate. Whether the NDC can sway public opinion will be reviewed on 7th January 2025.
Thoughts on our social media platform on whether, level 100's not paying any tuition fee would really augur well for the NDC. But considering how widespread reactions have been on this, let's still try and get some perspective and speak to a seasoned educationist and the founding dean of the School of Education and Leadership at the University of Ghana, GHOne, Professor Jonathan Fletcher. Prof. Fletcher, thank you very much for your time. Let me find out from you. So what are your thoughts about this no fee policy for level 100s as an educationist? What's your thoughts on it?
Well, thank you very much for having me on the program. I would like to say very happy for charity. That's thanks very much. Yes, it's a very good question. But I must say that education for all is a great idea. Question about that, particularly if education is going to support people with background that cannot help them to, in other words, people with disadvantaged financial backgrounds in education. And of course, good idea to ensure that if there is support education at the level, it has to be planned very well. There are some questions that I have for my own education because it looks like assumptions have been made by proposing that this is going to happen or this is possible and that it can at 400 students. So in the first place, which I would want. But you cannot give me answers, but whoever has the answer, to let me know, to tell me why this is a situation. In other words, why are we looking at only level 100? If we have enough to support education at all levels, why level 100? Second question is that level 100, are we looking at just university students are doing level 100, or we're looking at a college of education because we have 100, any township, private, public, it would have people doing at level 100. And if you look at the number of students who actually write the examination, we're talking about 400,000 around that. And of course, it's not all of them who will gain admission to university, but there are people also waiting. And the only reason they haven't got in, not because of money, is because it's the cut-off point. And the question then is that if work makes a free, we then are going to assume that the same number of people who applied last year are going to apply this year. That's the answer. So using that assumption, then it may be difficult to find the actual cost impacting on this journey. So let's say, for the sake of argument, at 200,000 that are going, supported. Now, if you spend 1,000 cedis, and that is already 600 cedis. I'm sure that it won't. If 1,000
Well, we sincerely apologize for the poor sound quality. We would ask Professor Fletcher to reposition, and as and when we're able to regain that sound that we're looking for, we'll put him back on. But that would do for Insight for tonight. We're not done with the bulletin. We're coming back with some more local stories. Do stay with us. We'll be back shortly. Ketsi Bills Microcredit, let's bring you business. Business tonight, and here the Bank of Ghana has absolved itself of any liability pertaining to the 54.5 billion cedi out of the 60 billion cedi losses incurred in year 2020, citing government's domestic debt exchange program, that's the DDEP, as the cause. Well, during his appearance before the Public Accounts Committee in Parliament today, the first deputy governor of the Central Bank, Maxwell Opoku Afare, attributed the losses to the debt restructuring haircut and exchange rate volatility, emphasizing that these factors were beyond the bank's control. Well, he further clarified that the bank's exposure to the DDEP was minimal and the losses resulted from the valuation adjustments necessitated by the debt restructuring and exchange rate fluctuations. Well, Mr. Opoku Afare assured the committee that the bank's primary focus remains ensuring financial stability and maintaining a sound financial system rather than assuring unnecessary risk.
From 2022, the biggest portion of the loss is not really coming from our operations. It's coming from as a result of the 50% haircut that the central bank took on behalf of stock of government debt. And here I'm putting emphasis on stock, meaning with this accumulation of government instruments that the central bank has been holding for years back. And as part of the DDEP, the Bank of Ghana had to take a 50% haircut. At the time of the DDEP in 2022, total government instruments stock that was being held by the central bank was 64.5 billion Ghana cedis. Out of this, we took a haircut of 50%, and that meant that we took a hit of 32.2 billion Ghana cedis. And then when the also was fair valued, which is part of the IFRS 9, the fair valuation meant that there must be an impairment or a fair valuation loss of 12.1 billion Ghana cedis, which is not coming from our operations, but coming from the debt exchange program that was introduced. When you add all together, it amounts to 44.4 billion Ghana cedis. In addition to that, there were marketable instruments. So these other stocks were not marketable, but the marketable instruments were the bonds and the other things that we're holding, that we also took a haircut of 4 billion Ghana cedis on that. If you add that to that, it amounts to 48.4 billion Ghana cedis. So out of that, in addition to this, there were cocoa board loans and securities that the central bank was holding, which also suffered a haircut of 50%. And that amounted to another.
All right, so Deputy Central Bank Governor explaining the losses in there. That'll do for business tonight. Thanks to Bills Microcredit. Well, up next, let's bring you sports.
Now, coach of Alakas ladies, Emmanuel Kweku, says he's optimistic of an improvement in the performance of his team against Edo Queens of Nigeria on Wednesday. The Sekandi-based team played out a goalless draw against Burkina Faso side Omnisport in Group B in this year's WAFO Zombi qualifiers to the Continental Championship, that's the CAF Women's Champions League. Kazakhs are aiming to replicate the kind of form that got them to finish in second place at the main competition after losing South Africa's Sundown. Now, speaking in an interview before the game against Edo Queens, coach Mensah is optimistic his team will improve against Edo Queens of Nigeria tomorrow.
Well, we're already in competition season, so for me, I think that we will have to be very competitive even during the training. And looking at today's training, I can see that the girls actually gave their 100% effort right from the warm-up stage to the last stage, which was more of the tactical bits. We're very competitive. That is the standard of us. Like I always say, it's result-oriented. And so we are ever ready for the game tomorrow. For competition, always the start looks a bit tricky. And you can also expect that there will be one or two players that will be a bit tensed up. And so now that the competition fever already is on us, I'm seeing that the girls are in very high spirit. And besides the mistakes that we did in the first game, we have looked forward to correcting them, and we are seeing more of improved performance in the game against Edo.
From Bouaké, where the team is based, let's go to Paris now, where Ghana's contingent for the upcoming Paralympic Games have arrived in Paris ahead of the Games. The global event will see Ghana competing in 4 disciplines, including para-athletics, para-powerlifting, para-cycling and para-taekwondo for the 10-day event, which runs from August 28th to September 8th. Now, as part of measures to ensure the team acclimates ahead of the Games, the team arrived today for a pre-game training camp in Genevia between August 13 and 21 before moving to the Games village. Led by the chief de mission, Henry Labi, the team is made up of 6 athletes, 3 coaches, 3 athlete aides, 1 physiotherapist, and then 1 accreditation liaison officer and 1 official from the NPC. We're hoping that the park team will make us proud, unlike their main Olympians did to the nation. Up next is GHOne.
All right, so let's do entertainment at this moment. And here, CEO of Links Entertainment, Richie Mensah, has urged people in the creative art space to make collaborations a key step in their various endeavors. Well, the Framer hitmaker believes collaboration is the main tool to help tell our stories and move the industry to greater heights. Well, he said this during the ground launch of his live Lift the Music campaign project here in Accra.
The Ghanaian creative arts space has been faced with some challenges for some time with regards to its growth and helping to tell Ghanaian stories on the global front. It is for this reason that the CEO of Links Entertainment, Richie Mensah, has launched his Lift the Music campaign, which aims to support up-and-coming artists, honor our national heroes, and foster connections among all Ghanaians via common artistic endeavors. While giving insights to the whole campaign, Richie emphasized the need for effective collaboration among those in the creative field in order to achieve this goal.
Let's work hard. Let's bring people together.
let's do so much over the years that the day we decide to call a meeting, the day we decide to call people in the industry that, guys, there's a better way, we can actually make this happen, people will listen because they understand that it's true. Based on what has been done over the past few years, there is another way to do things.
While commending the initiative, Managing Director at Sony Music Publishing for West Africa, GHOne Tom, said more foreign entities have started buying and owning catalogs of African artists, and it's essential that we take charge of our own narratives.
As I speak to you, there are people from other continents buying our catalogs for change, for chicken change. As I speak to you, a ton of our actual music does not belong to us. Why? The problem is we're not educated enough to know what to do with our catalogs.
Ghanaian rapper and hip life pioneer Reggie Rockstone, who is also the legend for the Maiden Project, and Ghanaian musician Dr. Crime, who was at the event, also spoke to GHOne Entertainment.
It's amazing to see him manifest because he spoke it into existence, and now I'm actually seeing him do it.
It's Ghana music, and Ghana music, we all want to see to the progress of it. So anytime there's a good initiative like this, and you know, when we say links, they don't go wrong. You know, they have the foresight, they do the carry forward thinking. So anytime that Richie is brainstorming with the industry, you already know that there's always love, it's always about progress, it's always about...
Well, I echo to Richie on that one, and that would close the bulletin for this evening. Bulletin led by Musa Lanza. On behalf of the entire production team tonight, I would want to salute you and also urge you bring the family together. Ensure you brush with Pepsodent. With Pepsodent, every smile matters. If you forgot my name, I am Kweku Temeng.